Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Yang bahagia Prof. Dato' Insinyur Dr. Muhammad Saleh Jaafar, lecturer for ECB 3011 for the Department of Civil Engineering, and also our students, our beloved students from aerospace as well as from Civil Engineering Department. With regard to today's topic, this is the last topic for the course Engineers and Society, and we are going to cover the topic on entrepreneurship. What is it for, or what is it related to engineers? Okay, and probably some of you are thinking, I would like to become an engineer. I'm not going to become a businessman, or I'm not going to get involved with anything to do with entrepreneurship. All right. So as you are also aware that in the program, we have a program outcome regarding entrepreneurship. And as we know that the Board of Engineers also stated that in their manual for accreditation, especially for the engineering program, okay, there's no such thing about entrepreneurship in the program outcome. However, we have topics related to finance as well as the project management. However, program offered in Universiti Putra Malaysia has another outcome that is related to entrepreneurship. So basically, even though it is not highlighted in the Engineering Accreditation Council manuals, the needs to have entrepreneurship, but in the Registration of Engineers Act 1967, I would like to relate it back to our Board of Engineers Act. Okay, that stated that in the Section 7, 1A, a person shall not, unless he is a professional engineer, okay, with practicing certificate, practice, carry on business, or take up employment, okay, which requires him to carry out or perform professional engineering services for designated engineering work subject to Section 8. Okay, if you read carefully, it is a legal terms there. Okay, what it means basically, as an engineer, you are going to also involve with business, right? And who are going to become a businessman in the engineering fraternity? Basically, it is you yourself, the professional engineer, okay? Not any engineer, not just graduate engineer, not professional engineer. It is professional engineer with practicing certificate, okay? That's why it's being highlighted in the Act, saying that only professional engineer with practicing certificate can open an engineering firm, right? And becoming the director and having shares and so on, right? And in this Act also, in Section 7A and 7B, okay, if you can easily download it from the website of Board of Engineers Malaysia, which explain about the sole proprietorship, partnership, or body corporate that may practice engineering consultancy practice. So what does that mean is that as a student of engineering, you also need to have basic knowledge. What is it to do with business, how to run a business, and how to get involved with engineering consultancy practice. And it is also being detailed out in the regulation of Registration for Engineers Regulation 1990. It is an regulation list that being read together with the Engineers Act Amendment 2015. You can refer to part number 5, which talk about the registration of engineering consultancy practice, and it clearly stated who can become the director, what are the numbers of shares for the engineers to be incorporated in a company, what are the roles and responsibilities are also being highlighted there. And in short, entrepreneurship is very important for an engineer. So as we have already looked into the topic of function of management, we also look into the engineers as managers. You cannot run away about doing business, meaning that not saying that you are going to do the accounting, you are going to do the finance part of the company. It is talking about the role of engineer in business. All right. So that is the gist of what we are going to cover today. So in terms of the subtopic, okay, I'm going to share with you, okay, 5 subtopic that we are going to look into this particular session. The first one is we are going to look into the invention, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We are going to look into the definition, what is the differences between those 3 items. And as an engineer, you are going to get involved with probably research and development, okay, in small business. And we are going to also touch on social innovation, and we will look into a global picture on innovation, globalization, and development. And finally, we are going to look into the traits of successful technopreneur. So it is a technology entrepreneurship. In terms of the learning outcomes, I hope you can also pay attention on the learning outcome, because this highlighted the important parts of the presentation. Okay, at the end of this topic, all of you, the students, should be able to at least define what is invention, what is innovation, and what is entrepreneurship. There are big differences between the 3 terminology. And then you also should be able to explain the role of engineers to do R&D in small businesses or in any type of businesses, especially the engineering consultancy practice. And then you also should be able to describe social innovation. Maybe some of you are going to get involved with social innovation because it is also related to the projects that you are doing right now, related to this particular course. And should be also be able to relate innovation, globalization, and development, right? And finally, of course, to discuss the traits of successful technopreneur. Okay, it's look like there's a lot of things need to be covered, but hopefully we can complete the presentation but within 40 to 45 minutes, inshallah. Alright then, the first one is on invention, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Okay, even though this particular subtopic, we talk about entrepreneurship for engineers, but I believe that by knowing invention and innovation as an engineer, you are going to do this thing. You are going to create things, you are going to devise new methods, you are going to design products. So that's why I'm introducing invention and innovation as part of the entrepreneurship topic. Okay, what is innovation? Okay, innovation is about identifying or creating opportunities. And later on, I'm going to explain one by one of this definition of innovation. It is also the new ways of serving existing markets. At the same time, growing new markets, innovation can also about rethinking services as well as meeting social needs. And of course, innovation is about improving operations. Okay, let us look into one by one. And the first one is about identifying or creating opportunities. Okay, so as we can see here, the definition being highlighted in this particular text, innovation is driven by the ability to see connections, to spot opportunities, and to take advantage of them. Identifying or creating opportunities. And sometimes this is about completely new possibilities. For example, by exploiting radical breakthrough in technology. Okay, so now we are facing the global pandemic of COVID-19, right? So engineers as well as the scientists, technologists, they are trying their very best to solve the problem, the problem facing COVID-19. Okay, for example, like new vaccines that we know about vaccine, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, there are also Sinovac, and other vaccine being created or being developed in order to combat the COVID-19 disease. Okay, so So that is innovation. So the community, the scientists are trying to innovate, to find solution. So that is part of innovation. And example also like new drugs based on genetic manipulation have opened a major new front in war against disease. And at the same time, mobile phones, tablets, and other devices have also revolutionized where and when we can communicate. Okay, that's the first one about innovation. And then innovation is also about new ways of serving existing market. As you can see, the logos here, we have AirAsia, EasyJet, Ryanair. Okay, the first thing that you, when you see this, you know that it is part of the low cost airline. Why is it low cost airline serving existing market? Okay, because before the introduction of low cost airline, they are only the prime airline, okay, or the main airlines for countries. For example, in Malaysia, we have Malaysia Airlines, Singapore has Singapore Airlines, Indonesia has Garuda, and so on and so forth. So the low cost carrier, they innovate ways of serving existing market, because airlines industry for air transportation is already available, and this group of airlines come into the picture and they innovate the way of doing things, and basically they are serving the existing market. All right, so at the same time, innovation is also growing new markets. And just now serving existing market, and innovation can also be treated when we talk about growing new markets. And it is equally important, which is the ability to spot where and how new markets can be created and grown. As an engineer later on, when you get involved with a company, you cannot just do the same thing again and again. It doesn't work, right? So example being given here, such as Sir Henry Ford, which may not have invented the motor car. He's not the first one to invent the motor car, but he's making the Model T, the first Ford car, okay, a car for every man, okay, at a price most people could afford, which he grew the mass market for personal transportation. At the same time, Alexander Graham Bell, okay, the famous inventor, okay, he invented the telephone, but didn't lead to an overnight revolution in communication, and that depended on developing market for person-to-person communication, where the market nowadays from just the wired telephone, now we have a wireless communication, and almost everybody now has at least a phone or probably a smartphone. So innovation is about growing new markets. Okay, and then the fourth thing is about innovation is about rethinking services. Right. So in most economies, the service sector account for the vast majority of activity. So there is likely to be plenty of scope, and the lower capital costs often mean that the opportunities for new entrants and radical change are greatest in the service sector. So for example, like rethinking services, like the online platform, the Shopee, Lazada, Alibaba, and of course Amazon, and so on and so forth. They do not own the product. Okay, so basically they come up with a platform that serve the public, like Grab. They do not have their taxis, and they don't even own cars, but they provide transportation services. Okay, so for example, like now we have not just Skype, we have WebEx, we have Zoom, we have Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and so on, that revolutionize the way of we doing meetings. We have class and so on. So innovation is about rethinking services. So I hope you can get the definition now. And then the fifth elements or the definition of innovation is about meeting social needs. Innovation can offer huge challenges and opportunities for public sector, and it pressure to deliver more and better services without increasing the tax burden is a puzzle likely to keep many civil servants awake at night. So, example being given here, healthcare services. In healthcare, there have been major improvement in efficiencies around key targets such as waiting time. Right? So, we know if we go to a public hospital anywhere in the world, even in Malaysia, somewhere in Serdang, Hospital Serdang or Hospital UPM, you will have a mindset that going to hospital will take ages. It's just waiting time. Okay, so many good hospital in the world has already improved in terms of their waiting time by having online reservation or online call services, so that it will reduce the time for waiting in hospital. And this is what we call it as the meeting social needs. At the same time, the last definition on innovation is about improving operation. Okay, in short, doing what we do but better. So, as an engineer that innovates, you normally will try to make something better. Okay. Sometimes when you approach things, you would like to do differently, but different doesn't mean that it's going to become better. Okay, so that's where innovation comes in, where we try to improve operation. And this is an example given in the text, talking about a company in South Africa. Okay, the name is Kumba Iron Ore. And so basically they mentioned that we move mountains. In the company case, Kumba case, the mountains contain iron ore, and the company's huge operation require large-scale excavation, right? So, and restitution of the landscape afterwards. Much of its business involve complex large-scale machinery, and its ability to keep it running and productive depends on a workforce able to contribute innovative and continuing innovation in terms of the continuing basis. So if this is a hard work, doing mining, especially to remove land and so on. So they require constant innovation in the company operation. So that is about the sixth definition of innovation, which I approach it in terms of giving examples on what is innovation all about. And when we relate innovation and entrepreneurship, okay, where we know that innovation matters, right? But it doesn't happen automatically. Okay, so because innovation only is not standalone. Okay, it is driven by entrepreneurship, which is a potent mixture of vision, passion, energy, enthusiasm, insight, judgment, and plain hard work, which enable good ideas to become to reality. Meaning that the ideas that we want to nurture to bring it to the market. All right, that's where entrepreneurship comes in, right? So the power behind changing products, processes, and services comes from individuals, whether you are acting alone or you are working within a company. Okay, which as an engineer you can make innovation happen. All right. A famous management writer, Peter Drucker. If you Google Peter Drucker or innovation entrepreneurship, you will find this famous name, Peter Drucker. He mentioned that innovation is the specific tool of entrepreneurs, people who do business. So the means by which they exploit change as an opportunity for a different business or service. So it is capable of being presented as a discipline and capable of being learned, capable of being practiced. Meaning that innovation can be taught. And that's why in this particular course, we are trying our very best to introduce entrepreneurship to all of you, the future engineer. So that you when you become involved in businesses, at least you know this is entrepreneurship. This is how to go about to be a successful entrepreneur. And when we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, there are many relationships where entrepreneurship plays out on different stages in practice. Okay, it doesn't come at the early stage of invention, right? So when the invention turns into innovation, that's where entrepreneurship comes in. Okay, one obvious example is the startup venture in which a lone entrepreneur takes a calculated risk to bring something new into the world. You are introducing a new product, but entrepreneurship matters just as much to the established organization, like a big company which needs to renew itself, right? And to improve operation or the manufacturing line, and what it offers and how it creates and delivers that offering, as well as the those kind of entrepreneur. We also have another term of entrepreneur. We call it as internal entrepreneurship. Okay, often labeled as intrapreneurs or working in corporate entrepreneurship or corporate venture department. Okay, like an R&D engineer in a company, they keep on pushing new innovative idea so that the cost can be cut down, the operation time can be reduced, and of course, they are the people who provide the drive, the energy, and vision, and to take these new ideas forward within that context. So you can see the relationship between an innovator as well as an entrepreneur over here, right? And of course, the passion to change things may not be focused on creating commercial value, but rather on improving conditions or enabling change in the wider social sphere or in the direction of environmental sustainability. So a field which has become known as social entrepreneurship. So it's not just any entrepreneurship. We also have a term called social entrepreneurship. There's so many terms. I'm introducing it to you now. So if we look at the two elements, one is the entrepreneurship that going to grow wealth, getting more money, creating commercial value. At the same time, we also have entrepreneurship that creating social value, right? So if we look at a company, a startup company, entrepreneurship that creating commercial value, individual entrepreneur exploiting new technology or market opportunity, and we look at the growth, growing the business through adding new products, services, or moving into new market, and try to sustain the business, building a portfolio of incremental and radical innovation to sustain the business. You cannot do the same thing again and again for the past 10 years, and try to spread it, influence into new markets, and of course, returning the radical frame, breaking kind of innovation which began the business and enable it to move forward as something very different. So that is an entrepreneur that creating commercial value. You are getting more money, right? Wealth, revenue for the company. However, for social entrepreneurship, which creating social value, I think is very important as an engineer, where we also do creating social value. That is what you are doing in your project under Engineers and Society, where you are creating social value. All right, where a social entrepreneur, passionately concerned to improve or change something in their immediate environment. You are trying to solve things within the communities, right? Doing social activities according to your expertise, your technical expertise, and then developing the ideas and engaging others in a network for change. When you are involving in the social community project, you are doing in your project right now, basically you are also trying to get others to get involved, and not just you to do the activity, but also trying to get support, maybe sponsorship, right, from other people. and at the same time, social entrepreneurship, spreading the idea widely and it diffusing it to other communities of social entrepreneur. It is like a spark that move from one place to another place, meaning that when you start somewhere small, other people see that well, I can also do it at my place. So it also create motivation for others to continue, right? To do the same thing or to do it better. And of course, changing the system and then acting as an agent for the next wave of change. So there's a two different thing of entrepreneurship creating commercial value as well as entrepreneurship creating social value, right? Let us move into the second subtopic. Okay, so just now we already looked into innovation and entrepreneurship, and now we would like to look at the R&D in small business. As an engineer, most of you going to get involved with R&D works. Okay, but what is it to do with entrepreneurship? Okay, innovation doesn't happen simply because we hope it will. Okay, it need drive. It is a complex process which carries risks and needs careful and systematic management. Even though it's kind of like an abstract, just idea. Okay, you just sit under a tree and then suddenly, yes, I got an idea to solve problem. So that is not that simple. It has some process. So innovation isn't a single event. Okay, you cannot just having ideas and it will works and the product can go into the market straight away. It has to go through a process, like the light bulb going off above a cartoon character head. So it's an extended process of picking up on ideas for change and turning them into effective reality, right? So if we look at the R&D in small businesses, the core process involves few steps. I put it 4 steps over here. The first one is recognizing opportunities. When you work as an engineer in a company, you will need to constantly recognize opportunities. Of course, then you will lead to finding resources, developing the venture, and capturing the value. Okay, the challenge comes in doing this in an organized fashion, right? Of course, you don't come to the office every day and okay, number 1, try to recognize opportunity. Number 2, finding resources. Not like that. It is not in this manner. But we have to come up with a process. Of course, try to treat the problem and turn the problem into opportunities before approaching to the next step. Okay, so this core process doesn't take place in vacuum, right? It doesn't stand alone. We also know that it is strongly influenced by many other factors. Okay, in particular, innovation needs clear strategic leadership and direction. No point of you as an engineer try your very best to innovate, try to provide new solution for the to improve the process, but your CEO, your managing director doesn't have the drive to move the company to have a better solution. So it comes from the top, meaning that it has to require strategic leadership and direction. You have a clear vision, clear mission, and the strategy to doing it. Okay, because from this strategic leadership, it comes with commitment of resources. Because innovation, new improvement requires investment. An innovative organization in which the structure and climate enables people to deploy their creativity and share their knowledge to bring out change, proactive links across boundaries inside the organization, meaning that support from each department, from the marketing department, from the human resource department, because you need people, you need resources, in order for you to do innovation. And to the many extent, many external agencies who can play a part in the innovation process. For example, the supplier, the customer, source of finance, skill resources, and knowledge, and so on. So that's about R&D in small businesses. Because this is about basic on entrepreneurship, I'm not going to go in depth of that particular topic. Let's move on into the third subtopic, which is a social innovation. This is very interesting. This is also quite new for me, where social innovation, just now we are talking about social entrepreneurship, right? And now is social innovation. What is social innovation? Okay, why there's so many terminology? Social innovation provides a unique opportunity to step back from a narrow way of thinking about social enterprise. Okay, when you talk about social entrepreneurship, it is also related with social innovation, and it can also relate to business engagement and philanthropy, and to recognize instead the interconnectedness of various factors and stakeholders. Okay, I took these points from the Stanford Business School. You can Google Stanford Business School later on to look into more example in talking about social innovation. And when we try to define social innovation, okay, social innovation is the process of developing and deploying effective solution to challenging and often systemic social and environmental issues in support of social progress. So social innovation is not the prerogative of or privilege or any organizational form or legal structure, because it doesn't belong to someone or belong to organization. Is meant for everybody. Solution often require the active collaboration of constituents across government, business, and the non-profit world, the stakeholders. So how social innovation differs from social entrepreneurship? Okay, although social entrepreneurship has become a popular rallying point for those trying to improve the world, of course, like an engineer, social change can happen outside of them, right? Because the environment, the ecosystem to drive the social entrepreneurship comes the social innovation. As a matter of fact, solutions have historically come from the non-profit, private, as well as the government sectors. So the concept of social innovation focuses attention on the ideas and solutions that create social value, as well as the processes through which they are generated, regardless of where they are coming from. These are just a few examples from the Stanford Business School talking about social innovation. Okay, for example, like the first one about fair trade, an organized movement that establishes high trade standards for example, like coffee, chocolate, sugar, and other products, by certifying traders that pay producers a living wage and meet other social and environmental standards. The fair trade movement improves farmers' life and promotes environmental sustainability. So this is happening all over the world, meaning that when the farmers themselves not getting richer, because they are just producing crops like chilies, like coffee and cocoa and so on, but the farmers are still farmers. They are not getting rich because of the middlemen, and the people who buy their crops, raw materials, and that transform it, sell it back to the manufacturer, like Nestle. You come up with a product, Nescafe, and so on, right? Or the chili turns into chili sauce for Maggi. Okay, so this movement, social innovation in fair trade, they provide a platform for high trade standard, meaning that to make sure the social well-being of the farmers being taken care. All right. And then the next one is charter school, like sekolah wakaf. We can see that there are many sekolah wakaf being established all over the world, especially in Malaysia, and then hopefully one day we are going to have a university wakaf. I heard that this Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan are trying to transform University College PCOM, one of the private institution in Malaysia, going for this wakaf kind of platform, like a charter school. So example being given here, publicly funded primary or secondary school that operate free from some of the regulation that typically apply to public school. So administrators, teachers, parents have the opportunity to develop innovative teaching. So that's one of the social innovation. It's not about profit making money, but at least it is covering the cost. So by using public funding. And then the another one is on emission trading, a pollution control program that uses economic incentive to reduce emission, right? For example, that being given here, a cap is set on the total amount of certain pollutant that can be emitted, and permits to pollute are issued to all participating businesses. Okay, this happened in the US. Those with higher emission can buy credits from businesses that have reduced emission. Over time, the cap is reduced. So this is an example of social innovation. It's a slightly different between the social entrepreneurship. All right, social innovation drivers. We observe how cross-sector fertilization underlies the three key mechanisms that are driving contemporary social innovation: exchange of ideas and values, shift in roles and relationship, and integration of private capital with public and philanthropic support. Ultimately, the most difficult and important problem cannot be understood, let alone solved, without involving the non-profit, public and private sectors. So we cannot just wait for the government to provide social innovation for the public, but we ourselves to play role as an engineer, as a society, as a lecturer, as a student. We also need to provide our role in social innovation. And then going into the fourth subtopic for this entrepreneurship for engineers, we need to know about innovation, globalization and development, where we are. Where is Malaysia in terms of the global context for innovation, right? But before we go into that, we look into the innovation here, production or adoption, assimilation and exploitation of a value-added novelty in economic and social spheres, renewal and enlargement of products, services and markets, development of new methods of production and establishment of new management system. It is both a process and an outcome. This is just another example or another way to look at innovation. So it is quite mouthful definition over there. When we talk about globalization and development, innovation is not an invention, right? So what is invention? Okay, invention comes from an innovator. People who invent things called innovator, and the invention is the product, okay, or the solution. That means that the creation of something new, right? So when you do invention, you create something new, right? It has novelty there and results in new knowledge. Okay, how about innovation? Innovation, the transformation of idea. You have good idea or resource into useful application. Okay, and finally results in a new product or new services or new processes. Okay, there's a difference between invention and innovation. If we look at the innovation spectrum, okay, the axis here talking about resources as well as level of development, okay, from ideation, discovery, technology demonstration, development and commercialization. We can see here the role of academia, university researchers, scientists as well as government, the role are very high, meaning that at the beginning of discovery, we can call it as the low technology readiness level, TRL 1 to TRL 3, where we have technology discovery, technology demonstration, where the role of government and academia getting less and lesser, where once the product has already been prototype and having it can be produced, clinical trial or the real case testing. So where small businesses and investors will come in, and of course the mass production is the industry. So you can see the in this particular chart, the innovation spectrum, the role of different stakeholders as well as the level of development. Okay. Motivators for innovation. Innovation will lead to wealth creation. It will becoming a catalyst for regional development, basis for comparative advantage of nation, creativity and human nature. At the same time, innovation can be a key value for the longevity of business. It is a source of transformative and qualitative change. Even in the university, right? We cannot just do the same thing for the past years, for the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from the establishment of the university. Now, with a new challenge, like what we are doing now, we are doing teaching and learning via online platform. Of course, not everybody happy with it. The students are crying, trying to learn something. And of course, on the same side, the lecturers are also struggling to provide effective teaching and learning. So we have to change. We have to adapt and adopt new innovation, so that we can move on. And it is also a source of organic growth for firms and solution to complex problem, right? Looking at the Global Innovation Index 2020, it's quite surprised. Malaysia ranked number 8 in Asia. Okay, so and 33rd, number 33 in the world, which is quite good. Global Innovation Index, and how it is being measured. Basically, they look into the framework of the Global Innovation Index. In terms of the input of Innovation Index, they look into the institutions, for example, the political environment, regulatory environment, business environment. They also have elements of human capital and research. How many numbers in terms of institution providing education, tertiary education, R&D, what are the infrastructures provided, the ICT, and then market sophistication, okay, in terms of the investment, trade, competition, and market scale, and business sophistication, the knowledge workers in innovation, linkages, and knowledge absorption. So they collect all of this value as the input, and most importantly, the output of the innovation, which is the knowledge and technology outputs, the knowledge creation, the knowledge impact, the knowledge diffusion, as well as the creative outputs, intangible asset, creative goods and services, online creativity. So what does it mean as a layman? Meaning that we know that there are so many innovation activities happening in Malaysia, but why can't we see this the Malaysian own product being used? So it is quite a challenge, because of the way we work, the way we move. For example, like people are asking why Malaysia doesn't produce our own vaccine, right? So probably some of you doesn't know, or probably some of you know, that we are trying our very best, meaning that our scientists are still working. It is not easy. It's not just baking a cake or making something, a device. It is something to be put inside our body. So I think researchers from UPM also are working on the vaccine. I hope one day we can have a vaccine from UPM, inshallah. So it is quite interesting where we are, how are we doing, and hopefully that the global innovation index can be translated into more and more product being produced in Malaysia. All right. The final part of the lecture is on the traits of successful technopreneur. Okay. Just now we talk about entrepreneurship, innovation. We talk about the Global Innovation Index, and now I'm introducing another one, which is Technopreneur. This is the entrepreneur that involved in technology, such as you yourself, as an engineer to be later on. Okay. Characteristic of Technopreneur, I put it 5 elements here. I took it from Galaxy 99. They have 5 traits of successful technopreneurs. The first one, successful technopreneurs must have leadership, flexibility, discipline, strategies, and focus. Okay, let us see one by one. Leadership. Good leadership is critical to successful technopreneur, okay, or technopreneurship. This means that as a person, you serve as the spark to a bright idea and transform the dream into a reality. You as a leader are the starting point. And with that, you find the best team, lay down foundation, and think of the overall strategy for your business. Okay, so as I highlighted earlier, there's no point of as the engineer trying their very best to do innovation, but the boss doesn't have the drive. So leadership is very important. Example here, Peter Loftin. Who is Peter Loftin? He built up his empire from the back of a small office in North Carolina. It's a good example. He started selling portable phones business to business and knew that the potential for business to business telecom was enormous. With this knowledge, Loftin decided to start his own telecom company, right? So because he has the will to do it, he has the leadership, and technopreneur must have flexibility, where technopreneur know that not everything produces great results and adapt to such circumstances easily. So as a lesson, you need to know that to get to the top, you must know how to blend with tight situations and be creative enough to emerge successful in future, right? For example, like when you design something, you produce a solution, you have to look at the competitors. Why people want to buy your product? What are the advantages? What are the benefits? What's best for them? What is it good for the customer, and what is actually must have for the customer? Okay, there's 2 different things there, and you should also understand that your ideas are your dream, right? But this dream should be pliable enough so you can help shape solutions to the problems of consumer. So you have to look into the perspective of the consumer, the customer, instead of what you want the product to have. So you need this flexibility to suit best the client's needs. And then discipline. And one thing you need to learn and understand as an entrepreneur is that success requires discipline. Everything, if you are playing football, Datuk Saleh always give an example of a football, it requires discipline. It's not just playing game. It's require a discipline. So you need to structure your work so that you and everyone know their roles and responsibilities. Great discipline within the business will help you find out and tackle problems that arise with the venture. Additionally, it helps you keep your team working like a well-oiled machine. Okay? And discipline also determines how you spend time with work and still have enough time for family and friends. Similarly, as a student, of course, you have so many subjects. You also have routines at home. Doesn't mean that you are studying at home, you do not have to take part of the routine work at home, like sweeping the floor, cleaning the bathroom, and so on. So you have to balance. You have to balance. It's quite difficult. It's quite challenging. Even though I'm working at home, I also need to do the house activities. So I have to balance. So everybody has to adapt and adopt. So we, as a human being, we have to discipline ourselves. More for the technopreneur, you have to have a good discipline to become a technopreneur. And then the fourth element is strategies. Remember the saying, behind every successful man lies a strong woman. Okay, maybe someone doesn't like the quote there. Well, this is applicable here too. As a technopreneur, all successful ventures have great strategies behind them. Therefore, as an administrator for your company, you should be able to get relevant and useful things for your business strategy. As a strategist, you need to be able to come up with unique products every time and have the magic to push your product to the market and let consumers see the real value it can bring into their lives. Aside from this, as a strategist, you can pick ideal business partner, understand the competition, see the weaknesses, and amend them before they become a problem. So successful technopreneurs must be a strategist. And finally, you also need to focus. Successful technopreneur may have 100 items on their to-do list every day because you're running your own company, right? So you want to make sure you want to try everything to improve your product, but they know which ones must be prioritized. So you have to focus, right? You cannot do everything. Okay, what is priority? What is less priority? What need to be done first? I'm always try to do my work last minute. It's not just you. I think it is a habit. It's a very bad habit where we just group everything in very last minute, saying that we can finish our work on time. But some people say that they work best when they are under pressure. It's not a good example there. Of course, disaster will happen as an engineer work under pressure. Under pressure meaning that you try to rush things out. So the focus is like the sniper, alter ego of your discipline that scope the target and makes failure as not part of the option. Okay, some people might start something great but give up after a few months. You just hangat tai ayam. You just have a motivation that dies off after a couple of days, a couple of weeks. You will see them starting on another excellent idea, and the next time you see them, and then another the next time you bump into them. So they have like the stock market, up and downs. If you want to be a great technopreneur, you must know how to prioritize your tasks and responsibilities. Okay, you should learn to drop down distractions and focus on success-oriented things. Okay, again, talking about Peter Loftin, who founded Business Telecom Inc., knows how to squeeze every drop of productivity in his work hours, and he learned that an emphasis on the most important task made him more efficient and productive. All right. So, do you have what it takes to be a successful technopreneur? Okay, think about it. So, as a summary, I think I already take nearly 55 minutes, starting from 8:15 just now. We have looked into the subtopic of invention, innovation, and entrepreneurship. You also have a glance of the R&D in small businesses, and then looking into social innovation. We compared between social innovation and social entrepreneurship, and we also look into the innovation, globalization, and development context. Okay, and finally, the traits of a successful technopreneur. So with that, probably some of you will become a technopreneur one day, or opening up your company, and after registration as a graduate engineer, you get your professional engineer, and finally getting your professional engineer with practicing certificate, so that you can become an engineering director for your company. And I wish you the very best. I think that's all for now. Probably I can just stop sharing, and